Welcome to another edition of News Bites here on Daily World Television. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host. A Islamic State militant has been giving interviews to the media lately. He remains behind bars and he is shedding some light on what it was like being a member of the IS and what he says is a typical example of many of the terrorists. This terrorist, who was of course up on multiple murder charges, has admitted to raping as many as 200 captured women. His accounts are so graphic and detailed, their truthfulness is beyond dispute. The short version of them is this: the Islamic State would take over an area, they would round up and separate the women from the children, then they would separate the younger women from the older women, such as senior citizens. Then they would truck them off to a series of buildings where they would then be sexually abused or given to some of the jihadi fighters as a so-called jihadi bride. Now, this type of practice is common among terrorist groups. Al-Qaeda had done the same. It's been done throughout history among these terrorist-type groups. The Islamic State even has online material that actually justifies it in their view and also explains these so-called rules. Now, another part of this individual's testimony, which is very interesting, concerns the mass executions. He claims that he has personally murdered at least 500 people and that he was forced to do so at first and it really bothered him, in his own words. But then after the first few murders, he said that he lost no sleep over it and actually found it quite easy. He said that his preferred method of execution was to simply blindfold somebody and shoot them in the back of the head, which is again another tactic that is used in addition to beheading. As more and more Islamic State militants are captured by coalition forces, there is going to be a whirlwind of testimony and hardcore evidence that's going to come out that documents the horrors of what the Islamic State has unleashed on the world over the last few years, that they have enjoyed, for lack of a better term, the territorial gains in Syria and of course controlling much of Iraq. This is reminiscent of what happened after Hitler's Third Reich fell. After the Third Reich was extinguished finally, the Western world as well as the European press could go in and see what the death camps were about, the concentration camps, the Holocaust that Hitler had unleashed against people that were deemed subhuman or Untermenschen. This is going to be the same thing with the Islamic State. As Mosul is getting ready to fall and as key last outposts of the Islamic State are recaptured under Syria and by Russian forces, the world is going to be able to see firsthand the horrors of what the Islamic State was up to and the legacy of damage that they left behind.